Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 24 of the Gretsch Afternoon Drum Break. I'm your host, Neil LaFortune, coming all the way from the lovely studios here in Orillia, Ontario, Canada, and it is getting cold. It is definitely fall. But welcome and thank you, everyone that watches the show every week, and thank you to everyone who tunes in on YouTube. I want to thank Roman Roth today, my friend Roman Roth, and previous guest and drummer for Simply Red, for the connection with my guest today, Mr. Karl Brazil. He is one of the top drummers in the UK whose resume for both live and studio is a mile long and includes such bands as Feeder, artists like James Blunt, Robbie Williams, Christina Aguilera, Elton John, Westlife, Take That, Leona Lewis, Natalie Imbruglia, many, many more. And I hear he's a bit of a football fan, so which is pretty awesome. So we have lots to chat about today. What I am going to do is I am going to see if I can. Here we go. I'm going to send a Brazil to join us on here. And it is my pleasure. I cannot wait. I've been a fan of these bands and people's. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for spending the time, taking the time. I know you're busy, and it's taken a couple of weeks for.
I'm just turning you up. Sorry.
There we go.
Well,
and you've been busy, which is good.
Well, not that busy. I mean, I've made the best of of lockdown, to be honest. But it's been a strange time for everybody. So I consider myself to be lucky, I'd say.
If you're doing any kind of session work or live work, indeed you are a lucky guy. And I remember since becoming a Gretsch artist myself in 2018 and friends with Lucas von Gretsch, and I've seen your interviews and whatnot, and he had nothing but great things to say about you. And
he's a great guy.
That guy
he's a good guy.
Isn't he awesome? He says about you, he says, this is a guy talking about you that you'll finish a tour, you'll be home for a couple of days, say hi to your son, and then you're off and you're playing some more. So,
that's not, reflecting on the years gone by. Now I've had time off. I think that's probably not always been the best decision to start something as soon as you finish something, because you don't get a chance to sort of appreciate it, for one. And it's not normal. And now we've had lockdown. I'm now experiencing normal life, which is great. I have to say, it's really nice. There's good things that have come out of it, for sure.
It's probably the least that you've been away from home in a couple of decades.
I think so. I'm not that old. But, yeah.
Okay. So maybe 10 years then. Okay. Yeah, I'm probably a good 10 years older than you. So what have you been doing since March then? What kinds of things have you been up to?
Well, I'm the sort of guy that needs to do things and have goals, targets. So I haven't played much drums, if I'm honest. I've done three records, 3 albums, I think, in lockdown. One with Feeder, some tracks with Feeder, a new album with a Passenger recently, which has been great, and I've been doing some new Robbie stuff, which I hope will come out over Christmas. So as much as I can, really. I mean, it's so difficult if you've been that busy to just stop and do nothing. It's a weird feeling, it really is. But I have to say, I've got an appetite to do it all again, and I really do believe it will come round again. But I don't know. I've missed people more than gigs, I'd say. I've just missed the people that I normally hang out with. I
feel the same way. Yep.
Yeah. Where are you based? Where are you?
I am about just over an hour outside of Toronto, north of Toronto.
Oh, okay. But I've been there. Shame you haven't met
Where are
before.
you now?
I'm in Birmingham.
Are you in London? Oh, you're in
Birmingham. I'm in Birmingham. Yeah, I'm in Birmingham. And it's raining, it's miserable, it's cold, the winter's coming, and we're not allowed to go out or do anything.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's a bit.
I've been there a couple
it's a bit strange.
times. I love Midlands. Midlands is awesome. I've been twice, and I had so much fun. It's so much fun there. And you grew up there, yes?
I did. I was born in Solihull, My father's Irish. I can't. Sometimes I think I wish I had the Irish accent because I love the Irish accent. I have to say, the older I've got, I'm very proud of Birmingham and what's come out of Birmingham, especially drummer wise. I mean, actually 2 days ago I went to Redditch and visited John Bonham's memorial statue, which was pretty special.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
And then I went to a
That's
vintage shop,
amazing.
which is pretty much all about Led Zeppelin. So that was good. Um, yeah, Birmingham's got a lot going for it, apart from the accent, probably.
That's amazing.
I think there's a
Um,
bit of a delay here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you can
little
if you're
bit.
picking me up.
That's okay. That's good.
So
Very
yeah,
nice. So let's go back.
but
Go ahead.
yeah, Birmingham's been great for me on many levels. I think coming from an Irish background, Birmingham's very mixed cultured city. So as you said before, I've played reggae music. That's probably my first sort of experience of a big gig, and yeah, I feel very sort of grateful that I've had the experience I've had out of Birmingham. Really, I'd say.
That's great. You were very young when you had that gig. You were 17, I believe it was.
Yeah, I was working in a music shop in Birmingham, and I used to drive my dad nuts. I used to get up and say, what can I do to get out there and, play, network, meet people? Because there was no internet then, basically. I think a mobile phone was the size of a house brick. So Dad said, why don't you get a job at the music shop in Birmingham? You'll meet people. So I did. And thanks to Gary Chapman, who still runs a shop called PMT, he was singing my praises and got me an audition with Bitty McLean on my day off when I was at the shop. So I got up and went for the audition, and I thought, I've got no chance of landing a reggae gig. But thanks to Bitty, I got the job, and it was one of the most valuable experiences of my life, learning a different sort of understanding of groove and different style of music, playing to click. Um, and the whole audition experience was pretty nerve-wracking. I had no idea that I was going to get the gig. I really didn't. So I was delighted when I did, and it led to an arena tour supporting Wet Wet Wet. I don't know if you know those
Wow.
guys, but they
Yeah.
they were huge at the time, and it was like a massive window to what's out there. I was like, I want a piece of this. I want to do this. So yeah, it was great. 17. It was probably a big year for me. I think it was 90. Well, you can work the maths out. But yeah, it was huge for me, and it stopped after that. I think after the tour, I think I had 2 years of doing nothing and sort of chasing the dream, and it took a while to get another audition and get back out there. But in the meantime, just with the Birmingham scene, playing with Ruby Turner, Trevor Burton, just keep myself busy. I never used to say, I never said no to any sort of opportunity or gig,
Yeah.
even if I was throwing myself in the deep end, because it's valuable experience. That was so. I like to think it's paid off, and all the different styles of music I've played have definitely come into play now in the studio experience for sure, definitely.
That's good. You have a great balance of studio and live playing. Do you record anything at home? Are you set up to record at home?
I wish I had a studio at home, but I don't at the moment, because now would be the time to sort of capitalize and do remote sessions. But no, I don't. But there's something about leaving the house as well and going to work. I think if I had a studio at home, I don't think I'd get much peace, to be
That's
honest. So it kind of works for me that I leave the house and do things. And I like going to the studio. I like getting in the car and going somewhere with a producer and, doing something different on a daily
you
basis.
and you get dressed to do that, because if you're at home,
Well, that's the
my
thing. Well, not so much now. I mean, if you have cameras everywhere, which everybody has to now, you've got to get dolled up. You've got to wear shirts. You've got to do your hair.
yeah,
I've done my hair tonight for you.
it looks lovely. I need to get a little more stylish, man. Maybe after
You look fine to me.
I'll appreciate that. So when you auditioned not long after the Biddy McLean gig finished, you auditioned for Robbie, correct?
Yes, I think I was 18 then. Was I
Wow.
18? Yeah, there's a video knocking about somewhere of me auditioning for Robbie way back then, and um, it was an experience. And it was, I think, to be fair, where I was at that time in my life and my drum career, the gig was it was too early for me because,
It's a big gig.
yeah, and I think there's many different factors, well, reasons that I didn't get the gig. I think there was like so many drummers there, but also, firstly, I had terrible clothes on. I had zits all over my face, um, and I
I can't
guess,
believe it.
and I had a ponytail just to top it off.
Oh, I remember reading that. Yes. Oh, I'd love to see the video. No, I'm just.
I'll send it to you after.
Oh, okay. That's and okay. So, what did you learn from that? The audition not going so well, but you did keep in touch with the. Was it the MD who got your phone number?
Yeah, I kept in touch with Guy. We're good friends now. We work together on at different levels of gigs and even in the studio, writing, production. But it was a learning curve. Going to
Yeah.
an audition and not getting the gig isn't the bit. It's not the be and end all because it's an experience audition. I think. Sorry, I'm just going to move my chair. I think you've got to do auditions as a young drummer to find out what you are and to get the confidence
Yeah.
to go to the next one. Having a few no's in your career, it doesn't do you any harm at all. And I was devastated. I mean, I think I waited a week for the phone
Wow.
call, and I didn't get it. So I rang Guy and said, "Any news?" And he said, "Yeah, you didn't get it." And I said, "Okay," but I sort of knew that was coming. But
Yeah.
I think actually the audition was in London, and I couldn't drive it then. I hadn't passed my test because I'm a terrible driver. Terrible. Took me. Sorry about that. Some stupid friend of mine knows I'm on here, and he just cuts in.
Of course. That's not
Anyway,
the first time. That's a.
so I went for the audition and sat in the car. And part of the audition was to you got a cassette tape, listen to it in the car
Yep.
on the spot, and it was all about being
Wow.
spontaneous and seeing how you dealt with music at the time, there and then. So I think I did all right, and it was really nice. I remember the bass player was really nice, and I walked out and I thought, I don't think I got anywhere close. But it's mental that it's gone full circle, and I've ended up doing the gig all these years later.
That's
It's
crazy.
it's a dream come true, really. It really is.
That is, I'm a fan, a big fan of both Jane, actually a bunch of the people that you play with, and really love that. I love my life song by Robbie Williams.
Great song.
Oh, it is such a great tune, and I love a lot of. And I played in a Brit rock band back maybe almost 15 years
Who
ago.
was it?
Well, it's a singer who's from Manchester, but he's
Matt?
over in
Is that
from.
your Manchester accent?
No, it's terrible, isn't it? Oh, he's calling me out. I love it. Yeah, this is we had such a great time, and I had never played a lot of that music before, and really got into those drummers and those artists, and really started to
Mm.
like that an awful lot. Because half of me is English. My mom's side was from England.
Where's
The
your,
other
where's
side,
your, where's your mum from?
my grandmother was from London.
Okay. Well, it's
So
definitely not Manchester,
no.
given the accent.
Nice.
Yes,
How's your Irish accent?
it's good, but I'm not going to do it now because I'll
Yes,
get a lot of flack for it.
you will. That's great. Oh man. So now, did Robbie remember you years later or did he even
Sad,
have anything to do with the first audition?
he was there. He was definitely there, but sadly not. He didn't remember it at all. I was that memorable.
That's pretty
No,
awesome.
well, at the time he was busy. He was running around. I think he popped in for 10 minutes or something, but I wouldn't expect him to remember that. But there is seriously a video of the auditions, and I think I'm on it for 2 seconds with long hair. I mean, at the time, I probably would have got in Hanson. My hair was down here, and it was just too early. But honestly, even Guy later on when I met him at the studio via someone else, he didn't remember either. It was that long ago. So,
That's a long
but
time
it's
ago.
I kind of like the fact that I came back around for my drumming ability and not just a phone number in a book. I quite like that. I had to earn the respect to get the shout again, if you like. So
That that is awesome. We'll get to the audition and maybe talk about the difference between the Robbie gig and the James Blunt gig and the
yeah,
fear
that's a
gig.
good topic. There's plenty to talk about there.
Yes. I want to go back to the beginning though. Your dad was very, I don't want to make a pun, but instrumental in you becoming or being involved with music. He had, I've been reading up on you here. He had a
You
lot of
have. You've
music.
done your homework. I'm
I,
impressed.
I
I'm scared about
agree.
what you're going to say next, to be honest.
So those glasses you bought last Tuesday.
You're not wrong. I can't see still.
Oh, you're funny. Um, so going back, your dad was very instrumental in having. I guess he had music on all the time. He had whether it was on the turntable or
Yeah.
whether it was in the car. What was the home like life as far as music went?
Well, when I was born in '77, Dad was in a band himself and was signed to MCA. Really good band, sort of country rock, Eagles type of thing. So
Oh,
he had a record player in the house. Do you remember those?
I do.
Uh, and good sound system, good speakers. So there was lots of good records knocking about. And because he's a singer, guitar player, melody man, everything was song based. So I think to name a few, Bread was the first album I played to, David Gates. The Eagles, Little River Band, Little
Wow.
Feat.
Hmm.
Dad wasn't particularly funky guy, so I had to discover that myself. But the biggest influence of all was Jeff Porcaro, who was
Hmm.
on lots of records, Steely Dan, Toto, and heard Jeff's feel and groove and taste and fell in love with it, and that was the benchmark. And I was only saying to some little lad today who wants drum lessons, he was saying, "What should I do when I get home from school?" I said, "Just play a whole album,
Yeah.
start to finish. Do the journey of different songs, ballads, everything." And that's what I used to do. I used to play for an hour after school every night. So Dad was influential, playing me the right things, I think, that carved out me as a player. But there's definitely drummers I missed on the way that I've discovered over time. But
Yeah.
Jeff was always on the records that Dad played me. Richie Hayward, Don Henley, who's a singing drummer, Levon Helm, all massive influences. And then the Irish influence with Celtic instruments. There's a drummer called Fran Breen,
Yeah.
who's still, I think he lives in Nashville now, but he played with a lot of people, Paul Brady, Mary Black, great drummer. Just drummers set me on fire that speak with
Hmm.
their personality and play from the heart, I guess. That's why I think any young kids that want to be passionate about drumming, they should find a drummer that they really love and appreciate what they do, you know, in
That's
playing.
great. I agree. Now, didn't Fran play on the Commitments soundtrack? Was that him?
Yes, I'm glad you've said that because that I'd have missed that. Yeah, he did. He played on the whole soundtrack. In fact, the snare drum that he used on "Take Me to the River,"
What
which
is
is a
that?
great. I think it's a Ludwig Superphonic. I'm pretty sure, and he's still got it in the garage. And he's promised me, Fran, if you're listening, that it's mine one day. But
Oh, that's
Fran's a great drummer. Fran, I went to see Fran when I was 12, and my
wow.
dad sat me on the top of a fruit machine at the Irish Centre in Birmingham, and he was playing with a band called Stockton's Wing. And I've never seen anyone, still to this day, play with so much meaning. He had a different, I think he had a different swear word for each drum, but he was so passionate. And honestly, his body clock was ridiculous. But I just fell in love with what he did and his passion and him as a
Hmm.
character. Characters on drums is important, I think. I think it's really important.
You can certainly feel that by listening to that soundtrack of that movie. I played in a
Oh, yeah.
commitment a tribute for a short time to that with an Irish bass player, and I remember listening to that stuff, going, "Who is this guy? What is
Yeah.
that snare drum?" And I think it belongs to Carl Brazil.
Well, there it is. There it is in virtual writing. It's a great album. That film was brilliant. It's really influential as well. So I just think all the drummers that I appreciate and look up to all have a personality. Who's the drummer that played on? I need this to be actually, yeah, the drummer that played on Raised on Radio, Journey.
Oh,
Who
Larry
was that?
London. Larry London.
What a player!
Indeed.
Great player. And I guess I'm picking on drummers that do what I do, but I still appreciate, the technical ability of all the other drummers that do different things. I love all aspects of drumming, but when it comes to appreciating what I do for a living, those are the guys that I think, another tip of
Right.
my tongue.
Now, I've watched you play on video, and your hands, your sound is terrific. Where did you learn the technical aspects? I know you play to music and have that ingrained in you, but where did you learn the technicalities?
I don't know how to say this without sounding. Well, I think I definitely grew up having a bit of a self ability. Definitely had a natural feel. And
Yep.
I mean, I didn't have lessons until later in life, but I'm left-handed, left-footed, and I probably should
Right.
have played the kit the other way around. But it's definitely too late for that. And I don't know. I think I've got quick ears, and that's why I've never fell in love with theory and reading. So when I
Mm-hmm.
hear something, I instantly know if I can play it or not. And feel for me is just it's not too hard. I find it very natural to just find the pocket and have a good body clock throughout a track. And
It's
I
it's
guess
easy.
that's why I've not tried to be anything other than a song drummer. I suppose that's what
Right.
I do.
But
I couldn't
please
go out there. I couldn't go out there and sit in for Chick Corea or anything like that. I'd be in trouble.
don't let people don't everybody that's watching, trust me, there's more to what Karl does here than just boom
No, but
chick.
the thing is, though, I found out as a young player that I like technical stuff. I love Dave Weckl. I mean, I think he's an absolute wizard who who's constructed tracks and um, fills charts that it was unthinkable years ago. I think drumming's moved on hugely, but I just know what my capabilities are and I know what I enjoy.
Yes.
I mean, it's just set in stone what I wanted to do. And even now, I feel guilty sometimes. You say if I play drums, I don't practice lots, but I know if I go in and hear a song, it's not going to go away. I know I can do the right thing. That's so. Thankfully, that's what I've been doing.
That's good. That's good. When did Gretsch drums first come into your life? Were you young or were you a little bit older?
Well, my first kit was a Ludwig Classic that my dad bought me, and him being a guitarist and not having a clue about drums, let me sell it and trade it in for a terrible kit. But he had no idea. So I actually didn't come across Gretsch at an early age. But thankfully, when Arbiter were sort of, they were, I'm sure they were looking after Gretsch for a while in the UK.
Okay.
So I was asked if I wanted to play Gretsch, and I tried them out, and I was like, absolutely. And it was only probably the last 10 years I started buying vintage drums and
Mm.
discovering how good vintage drums are for the studio. But, so being with Gretsch is it's a huge honor. And
Mhm.
it's yeah, definitely got their own sound, and I've got my heads that I use, and I know what I can get out of them, and I don't really want to ever change that. It's perfect.
I've seen you on the different series of Gretsch drums, from the Broadcasters to the USA
Mm.
Customs to the Brooklyns, that beautiful Brooklyn. And you were at the Ridgeland factory there when you shot that video, correct?
Yeah, that was a good day. Although I flew in and I didn't get much time. I had to be up early, and we went to the Gretsch factory, which is brilliant.
Mm.
There's
Yes.
no aircon. It's a hot building. And with the Irish blood I've got in me, it doesn't take much for me to get hot. I've only got to look at a candle and I start sweating. So, yeah, I went in. Stanson Moore was there and Cindy. and the kits were built. It was a bit surreal, to be honest. It was mental because they built these kits for us. You're suddenly there in the factory, and you're on the spot, and you've got to play. And it was, yeah, it was mental. But I felt so privileged to be part of the video, you know, part of the promotion. And they built me, on that day, they built me a Brooklyn kit. Paul Cooper, who's an amazing guy, attention to detail is ridiculous. So they built me this kit, and I have to say now the Brooklyn is probably my favourite. I was a broadcaster, man, but I'm now.
Really?
I love the Brooklyn. Yeah, I really do. They just sing a little bit more. I don't know what it is. If anyone's watching this that isn't a drummer, I'm sorry to bore you, but this is nerdy talk. But yeah, the Brooklyn is fantastic, especially playing for someone like Robbie, who has, you know, years of hits. So you have to play swing, you have to play a bit of pop, you have to play a bit of rock. This kit's got to do everything. So I like a kit that you don't have to work too hard to get a sound out of. And the Brooklyn is that, definitely. I should have said this on the video, shouldn't I?
What is your setup that you use with Robbie?
Oh, well, people see the kit and think that I'm about to play for Motorhead because it's got 2 bass drums. So don't be fooled. The 2 bass drums are basically for different sonics. So the small 22 it is now is padded out, different heads with a snare on the left. So for verses and funkier stuff or poppy stuff, I turn to the left and play that. Then I've got a 24 and a low fat snare with an Emperor X where I can go to for the choruses. And through a big rig, mic'd up nicely, the sonic change is supposed to lift the song, and that's what it's there for. There's not a double pedal. I've got another pedal next to the 24 which drives the left, so it's purely for sound. So I've got 22, 24, 13, 16, 18, although I've just got rid of the 18 because it ended up just being a stick tray. I didn't use it enough. And then I've got a 13 snare and a 14, and those drums is my comfort blanket. It's like I know what to do with it now. So it's too late to start messing around. I don't know what to do with a 10-inch tom these days.
I know.
Unless I was asked to do a gig that required one, I wouldn't really change my setup, to be honest.
No, and that's a beautiful looking drum kit. It's a great
Yeah.
setup. Things. What are the head choices? We had a question here. What are the head choices on your toms and snare drums and for everything really?
That's not weird. That's a perfectly good question. I've got Emperor coateds on the toms. I've got a Power Stroke. Let me get this right. Let's start with the left. So on the 13 snare, I've got an Emperor X because I just love them. I know how to tune them. Diplomat on the bottom. On the 14 snares, an Emperor X again with a Diplomat on the bottom. 13 rack is an Emperor X, and then same on the floor. And then the 2 kicks I've just changed. So I've got a Power Stroke 4 on the 22, which is padded, and a Power Stroke 3, both coated. I stopped using the clears. It was just a bit clicky and a bit rock. I kind of like the old vintage sound. So yeah, I haven't changed heads for years. I'm a bit of a sucker for routine and no change.
If they work, do you use the same heads on, say, on the broadcaster kit and the US?
Yeah.
Do you use ones? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time I've ever changed is when we did the swing show, and I put vintage ambassadors on the toms. But I don't know what it is. I just didn't feel it. I just, for some reason, I seem to be able to get the same sound or a different sound out of the kit. It's how you play it and how you tune it and how much dampening you use. I think that's what it's down to, really. I know. I think Roman's he's a Gretsch player now, right?
Okay. Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's making. I went to watch him with Simply Red in Birmingham. It was fantastic. So simplistic, minimal, and I have to thank him for setting the interview up as well.
Yes. I appreciate it. I think I was doing a podcast on another channel. I was a guest, and he'd heard that they asked me, who would you like to interview next? And you were definitely one of the names. And so Roman messaged me right away and said, I know Karl. I'll message him for you. Like,
well, thanks, Roman. Very kind of you.
Yes.
Do you know, I've only done it. I think I've only done 3 or 4 podcasts during lockdown. Just maybe I'm not very popular, but I haven't. It's just not something I've got into, but it's really enjoyable. It's nice to talk about. I definitely think everyone's reflecting more now. We're going through this strange time and what they've done in their career and looking back. I definitely have. I've looked back and thought, wow, I'm now appreciating what I've done. And
Yeah.
because when you're in the rat race and you're on the conveyor belt of work, you don't really ever look back. You don't. It's just yeah. So
You don't have
yeah,
time.
it's been that's been one good thing that's come out of this period for sure.
Yes, and the family time and learning other skills. A lot of folks are doing the engineering thing from home or whatnot, or starting a video cast and interviewing Gretsch artists all over the world. So,
Yeah, do you know one of the things that's got me through this whole period is, I'm a football fan. I love my football.
yes, you do.
So we can't obviously go and watch football games. So I manage the local team, under 11s team up the road, which takes 3 days a week at my life, and it's great. It's another trail of thought away from the music, and it's developing kids playing football, which is great. The hardest bit of it's managing the parents, to be honest. But no, it's true. But it's a great community. It's kept us all going, and it's it's just great fun. I'm passionate about football, always have been. So
That's one.
that's definitely been a boost in this period for sure.
That's great. After the Biddy McLean gig finished, and you said that you were playing around Birmingham, what was the next kind of major step that you took as far as playing with some other artists?
Well, I'm trying to think if there's other auditions I went for and didn't get. There was a couple, which is why I say the makeup of you as a character and a player, going for other auditions and not getting them. Don't be ever worried about that. You've got to just embrace the journey, if you like. So I guess around Birmingham, I was playing with Ruby Turner, which was great, really good learning curve because
Yeah.
she knows what she wants and she's always had a good band. So I was playing soul, R&B. I was playing blues with Trevor Burton, which was brilliant. That was great fun. Um, and then I went and auditioned for a Pop Idol winner. And I guess that was the biggest surprise after the Bitty gig because and the Bitty thing stopped for a bit. I was a little bit down. Definitely, I'd have to tour blues, and I was thinking, well, what sort of a player am I? What am I going to do next? Because
Right.
I was in a lot of bands, in and out, lots of different bands, and I realised that as a drummer, when you're in a band that's rehearsing 5 days a week, once the guitarist and singer fall out, the world falls apart, and you've got no say in it. So
True.
I, I was at Walsall Music College, which is just outside Birmingham, and I think I got another audition come up via a friend. So I went down to London for this audition, and my dad took me down, and I got the gig, and I couldn't believe it. And the next day, the gig started, and that went on for crikey. That went on for quite a long time. A lot of TV promo, very successful, and met different producers along the way. There's a guy called Darius Dinesh, who was huge at the time, and I guess that was the start of reality pop stars and
Yeah.
auditions on TV. So I'm really grateful that I got the gig that day. And there's lots of factors I got that. The reason I got that gig, I think I fitted in, got on with everybody, played the right thing, and it was just my time, I think. So what snowballed from that was meeting Pete Glenister, Steve Lillywhite, working for Mercury Records, which led to doing TVs and playing live with Elton John as a one-off. And that led to the Lulu gig. So it was just a snowball of different things. And then the music business is all about contacts for sure, and getting on with people. And I don't know, I feel very fortunate because I had lots of opportunities, and I always try to pride myself on when you've got a gig, just make sure you keep it. Because there's lots of factors other than drumming. Being in a band, it's getting on with people, traveling, living on a tour bus, which I've done with James Blunt for 15 years. He
Wow.
snores terrible, but no, there's if I could write, I will try and write it all down one day. But there's lots of factors to longevity in the business. You can blow it easily, I'm sure. So I think I learned early on that I wanted it so bad that I just tried to work out all the right boxes to be ticked to stay in the business, you know. And
Right.
being a good drummer is the first thing, and then getting on with people is huge. So
That is such a
yeah,
huge factor. Every guest that I've spoken to, that is probably the number one
I'm having a
besides.
tipple by the way. Cheers.
Cheers, thank you. I've got a little bit of water in the Gretsch mug.
You show me up.
But that is really, really important to be to get on with people and not to be a
Mm.
jerk, not to be difficult to work with, and we all have our own things to deal with. The road's not always fun, and it's not always easy, but it's all
No,
temporary.
yeah, you know, I think I've definitely there's been times in my career where I've not unappreciated things, but I've just been so busy that you have to pinch yourself and think, wow, you know, this is a great opportunity. This is a great, even been on stage many times, different gigs with different artists, looking out at the crowd, playing, thinking, you've got to take this in. You've got to enjoy it because you know you can have Instagram and all that, but you're there. You've got to be there in the moment. And I've got so many memories saved in my mind. I feel very fortunate. I'm running out of space.
You'll have to get another hard drive soon.
Hard drive for the mind.
Tell us how the Feeder gig came about. I really didn't know a lot about them and started listening to them and really liked their material.
But you know, I have to take my hat off to Grant and Taka because I if you try to pigeonhole me as a drummer and say I was a certain style, you'd only go on what you've seen me do or what you've heard me do. And all the gigs I've done are so varied. I mean,
Yeah.
they're all right across the board from bitty reggae to a pop gig to a rock band to playing with James Blunt, which is very disciplined. And um, I think I auditioned for Feeder through a good friend of mine, Dean DeVell, when I heard they were looking for a drummer. So I went down to London, had a play, and Grant picked up on me singing. He said I reminded him of Dave Grohl, which I was like, wow, because I'm a rocker at heart for sure. I'm definitely a rocker. Um, but I was also aware that you know some artists are very conscious of who you've worked with and the whole the whole look of things, I guess, in a way. But that didn't. None of that came into it with anyone I've worked with. People just like you for who you are and what you do. So I auditioned for Feeder, and it took a couple of weeks for them to decide because a lot of drummers wanted that gig. It's it's a great band to be in, good rock band, and a very credible band. So um, yeah, I went down, auditioned, and really wanted it as well. And you know, I'm still doing records now with them. Sadly, I haven't played live with them for a while because I don't have enough time in the diary. But everything I've done with them has been great, and we've just done a few new tracks a couple of weeks ago. But the drummer that's playing with them now is a guy called Jeff Holroyd,
Yeah.
who I recommended. Fabulous drummer, lovely guy. Really annoying because he's got better hair than me. In fact, he looks much
No,
better with the band than I do, which pisses me off. But sorry, but
not
I
possible.
was so happy. They needed a really good player that was available to them all the time. So I feel really lucky to still do some of the tracks, and we have a musical connection. But I guess it was the biggest surprise of my career to land the job with them because I knew all about them. And you know, when the first few gigs and when I was learning the material, I was really nervous. It's a tough play. That's putting a completely different head on that gig in power, and also you know you're walking into a fan base of
Yes.
a pool of people that love the drummer that was there previous. Same with Robbie. He's always had a good drummer.
Hmm.
Whereas James Blunt, I was there from the start, so I've never had that pressure before. But walking into someone else's shoes is a big deal. You can't really go in and replace someone. You've got to try and put your own stamp on it, which I think I've done, but it was hard along the way. But yeah, you know, we've just started another record, which me and Jeff are doing, and it's a great release playing with Feeder. Although the album we've just done, I hadn't played for about 4 months, and I just went down to London thinking, yeah, no problem. And I got, and after the first song, I was like, "Ow!" But
It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you.
it does. But I feel very lucky to have played lots of different styles, and I think that's where the influences from an early age come in. I used to listen to Whitesnake, Tommy Aldridge, to Don Henley with the Eagles, just really cross over with different influences, and
Mm.
take all those and put all those things together. But remember the knowledge of what people do, what's right for each different genre, and I guess when you're in the studio, that's what producers want. They want someone that can quickly put a hat on and do the right thing, which is why you probably see my name associated with artists you'd never think I'd be right for, but something's worked along the way.
It's good to be a chameleon and not be stuck and only play one style or one kind of era of music, and you're not going to survive too well. How did you prepare for the swing stuff of Robbie's? That was a bit of a stretch, was it not? Was it a little different? I don't,
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. And you know what? Fair play to Robbie. I had to go and audition for the gig again, basically.
yeah,
And he wanted me to do it, but I think his words were, "You've got to cut the mustard," which absolutely. So still to this day, I don't read drum music enough, good enough to just sit down and go, okay, I just don't. And part of the problem there is my ears work quicker than my eyes, as you can see. um, I can remember brass hits, but it wasn't just remembering the music or playing or having the swing. I was confident I'd have the right swing and could nail that. It was more um, being light on the kick and the foot hat being the drive. And I learned it as best I could, and I was literally waking up in my sleep. I'd go downstairs and play everything that I'd had to learn. But because I didn't write it down, it was all on the memory.
yeah.
I'd wake up in the morning and question, can I still do it? Is my memory still working? But I nailed it, and it's probably the best learning curve in my drum career that changed my drumming and velocity dynamic.
Yes.
I remember saying to Steve Sidwell, who's the conductor, he was great. I had to remind him, and when
Right.
everyone's in the room, they just want to get on with it. And I was
Yeah.
the guy in the room saying, sorry, but I didn't hold it up. I just had to let it know. And some of the help and support I got from the lead trumpet player,
Yeah.
Cy Gardner, he gave me a disc of some great stuff to learn Sinatra. And then somebody said to me, this is a great tip. He said, I can tell that you've been leading with the kick and your foot heavy. Just move the beater closer to the bass drum so you haven't got anywhere to
Right.
go.
Right.
So I did. And then we did a live TV show at the Palladium in London, and I was nervous, but nerves are good. I was
Yes.
confident myself, but I just didn't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I came off stage and felt great, and I got some compliments. So it was a challenge and a goal, and I achieved it. So still to this day, I could have said no easily, but I think back in the day when I was still around Birmingham, I forgot to mention Steve Palmer, Karl Palmer's brother, was teaching me at Walsall College, and he put me in as his dep at Ronnie Scott's in Birmingham,
Wow.
which that was a challenge as well. But I definitely think that was definitely helpful back then, subconsciously, to what I walked into. Do you know? I still need to get into the theory a bit, maybe, but it feels like it's gone on that long that I just do what I do. But maybe I'm being ignorant. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like it certainly is working, and
Yeah,
it hasn't harmed. It's not like you're going in and reading a commercial or reading anything down where they do one take of it and but you have,
mm.
yeah, you've had an awful lot of success without really
Well,
having to
I
take the
think
whole
I
heck of
think when I was younger, I didn't know where I was heading, and you don't know what opportunities you're going to get asked to do. Don't get me wrong. If I was asked to play for Chick Corea, it would have been I'd been out of my depth. But I said yes to different things that definitely helped me along the way, and I think now people call me because they know what I'm capable of, which takes a
Mhm.
while to establish yourself as a player. I should put my first drum clinic was in Birmingham supporting Dave Weckl. I
What
can't tell you how, it was just, honestly, I was there backstage thinking, what am I? What are people expecting?
what did you
But,
play? You obviously played to
well,
things that
that's
you.
it. Yeah, but back then I hadn't really played anything that was significant or anything anybody would know. So I had a bass player with me. We did some jamming. I played a couple of tunes, and I definitely didn't try to chuck it in and be someone that I'm not. But now, when I do a drum clinic, I can show people what I do and what I've carved out for myself as a character and a player. So I
Right.
basically just talk for an hour.
That's wonderful. What are some of the tracks or albums that you're most proud of?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Well, early on in my career, all the Lost Souls James Blunt album was very memorable because we went to LA for 4 weeks and he'd blown up after Back to Bedlam. So playing on that record with Tom Rothrock producing, being a part of the whole journey was phenomenal and an album that I'm really proud of. It's simplistic and I'm happy with all the parts. And grateful that I've done every album since with James. I would say Jason Mraz's album, which was done in
Oh, okay.
a live environment with Martin Tereffi at the helm, full brass section, really spontaneous record recorded with a band in the room. It was
Wow.
fantastic. And third, I'd say the Christmas album that I did last year with Robbie. One, great to play on any Robbie record, but two, to be part of the writing process.
Wow.
And still now is a crazy thought, but that's been a new thing for me since 2016. Got a really good relationship with Robbie writing, and we both love the same things. So to play on a record that you've been involved with writing wise was just another level of an experience I didn't expect to have. So last Christmas was really great. But playing songs on a TV show or hearing something on the radio that you've been a part of writing wise was ridiculous. So
That's incredible. That
yeah,
does.
those three would be highlights. I feel bad because there's lots of other stuff I've done that I'm proud of, but at the forefront of my mind, those things would be the three ducks up the wall.
We have Jeanette here who's commented quite a lot, and she says she loves the Gold song. So there's a bunch of comments, and thank you everyone for tuning in and commenting, and everybody they
Sorry, we
love.
haven't paid much attention to the
Yeah, I
comments.
know. So
I
love
was
the
just
Gold
making
song. Yeah.
Gold was an early song I wrote. Well, not an early one. We wrote it a few years back, but it's a great tip of the hat to the 80s. It's a great tune. It's really good. I still love that song. I think we've performed it once live at the Roundhouse, but yeah, it's out there, and I'm proud of it. I love a lot of 80s music. I grew up listening to Level 42, Phil Gould, another
Yeah.
great drummer. Big fan of Phil.
Love. Oh,
Jimmy Copley, who passed away sadly
yeah.
with Go West. I've seen him as a kid. My God, I just got hairs on the back of my neck thinking about the gig with Jimmy Copley with Go West. Ridiculous players, just great. So all that music had a huge influence for me. And in the writing now, it's all flooding out of me with melodies and sort of even production ideas. It's all part of the makeup of what you are, you know.
That's my
So,
era too. I'm older. I'm a
hey,
decade older than you, and that is my era. So I was a
are you
teen.
really? Well, you
Yeah.
look younger than me. I've got grey hair and
Well, thank you.
you look
But
great.
no, but I love 80s and huge Phil Gould fan. I play with an 80s, a bit of an 80s star. He plays with a Flock of Seagulls. He's a guitar player in a Flock of Seagulls, but he has a band in Canada called the Spoons, which are huge in Canada. So we play a lot of 80s music, of
Love
course,
it.
when we do
Well, you
gigs.
think the thing is with the 80s, when I was growing up, I was thinking, wow, you've got to be precise, you've got to be really
Yeah,
quantized almost. And then by the time I came out
it
of
was
school wanted
fun.
to play, it was Britpop and it was a bit more, it was a different flavour. But I wanted to play. I mean, It Bites, another great band, Bob Dalton. There's there was so much stuff back then. Even the Mr. album that came out at the time,
Oh,
it's programmed, but it was done with flavour and taste, you know. So that's why I love Raised on Radio. What's the guy's name?
Larry London. I believe that was Larry London.
Larry
Raised on.
London, what a player, man! That snare drum was ridiculous on that record. And then there's
Right?
the country music element, that my dad introduced me to. Little River
Yep.
Band, Restless Heart. It's just an
Oh yeah.
endless line of stuff. Restless Heart were like one of my favourite bands from a songwriting point of view. They're like
And
the Eagles that
yeah.
didn't get enough credit really.
And
So
he.
there's a lot of great stuff out there, and that's why I think I actually cleared out all my CDs the other day because CDs are gone. But I was
Yeah.
looking at things. I was really sad at the things I was chucking away. It really was.
So there's a few drummers on Raised on Radio. Larry London is on 3 tracks. Steve Smith is on 3.
Mm.
Mike Baird. Do you know who Mike Baird is? LA
Yes, I
Sound
do.
drummer. Mike's on that.
I love Steve Smith too. But
Oh,
going back to
yeah.
Jeff, who's the
Oh,
godfather for me,
me too.
check out On Every Street, Dire Straits.
I love it. The
The
Calling
Bug,
Elvis.
Heavy
The
Fuel,
Bug.
Calling Elvis. Oh, I can't put it into words. Just ridiculous,
Manu
tasteful.
Katché that too. Manu and Jeff split the duties on that.
Apparently so. I was at British Grove where they recorded that record, and I believe it was Jeff's last album in '92.
Believe it.
And I was there, and they're remastering some of the tracks. And somebody said that's Manu, and I said it's not Manu, it's Jeff. It's definitely
Right.
Jeff. I know, but I don't know if this is true. Please correct me if you know. But I think Knopfler had at the time when recording we had the luxury of having different players. I think he had Vinny, Manu, and Jeff. I mean, what a choice!
You can have
So
it.
yeah,
You
so
know.
I mean, I've got records. There's an album by a band called Fool's Gold. You can get it on vinyl on eBay. You got to get
Wow.
it. Sweet Country Air is the track, and it's
Okay.
Jeff. And my God, that's the track that was on repeat as a kid on cassette, falling asleep in the back of my dad's car on the way back from a gig. I think it's Jeff's taste. When they used to have fade outs, Jeff used
Yeah.
to do the best fills at the end when you just want to turn it up. What did he just do? And it wasn't anything ridiculous. It was just what
Some.
every producer and band and singer would want to hear. It was just nice, So I'm so sad that guy's not around anymore. But you know,
I,
he had a busy. He did good. He got a lot into the space he had for the time he was here.
he sure did at 38
John
years old.
Robinson. John Robinson's another.
JR. Oh,
JR.
another.
Oh, and I've got to mention Mickey Curry, another big influence. Mickey
Same.
Curry, love those guys. All they're all massive influence to me. They really are.
And they were sort of unsung heroes to the public, but
Sorry
would
about
play on the that you and I would know that like that.
Yeah.
I was a liner notes guy and a credits. I had to know who played on this. I wanted to know. Oh man.
Yeah. Me too.
I still do. Yeah, and I tell my wife, and my wife's like, I don't really care, that Jeff Porcaro played on, but she likes New York Minute. She'll love Dusty.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's brushes, and
so good, so good.
it really is. That is wonderful. What do you have on tap for the rest of the year? Is there anything happening for you?
Well, I think it's the same for everybody. It's kind of we'll have to wait and see. There's things that are coming in the diary. There's tours penned for next year, but I guess we'll just have to see how things develop. If we get another wave or if things get out of hand, but hard to say. There's things there to make me feel confident about the future. It's just a matter of how we all deal with it and how things go. I think it's going to be fine. I've kind of written off this year. For Christmas album comes out, which it's going to with Robbie, and we get to do a bit of fun around that. Great. And I'll just concentrate on managing a football team and maybe getting my snow boots on. But there's nothing else to get excited about this year. I think it's nearly over. It's gonna get tough here with the winter. You can feel the mood dropping because we're restricted to do anything anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I'm optimistic. But this year's done for me. I think just concentrate and write some music, and if the odd session comes up before Christmas, great. But next year it's looking like a busy touring year. Let's say if everything goes to plan.
Right. Right.
We'll see.
Is this
We
with
ja
Rod or with James or both?
early part of the year will be James Blunt. He's got an arena tour that's sold out already, so
Oh,
we're just hoping that will stay.
where
Because
is
if it
that?
doesn't, it's across Europe and there's some dates in the UK. But if that gets halted, then there's obviously a backup and a queue of lots of different artists that want to get out there and do stuff. So just have to wait and see. But I'm basically I'm kind of enjoying and going to make the best of time at home, because once you hit the road and you're on that tour bus again for a week, looking at the roof while you're going over the holes, and we go, oh, lockdown was so good. So you just got,
Yeah,
I think you just got to just live in the moment. But there's plenty of things to be positive and up about. That's for sure.
absolutely. What advice
Yeah.
would you give a young drummer who's maybe 17 years old and wants to do what you do? What would you tell him? Somebody was your nephew would say, Uncle Karl.
Uncle Karl. Well, right now it's a terrible time to be ambitious and um, get excited about things. But I would definitely just be sure of what you want to be as a player, what sound you want to have. If someone influences you, you like playing a certain style of music, then hone in on an album and play an album a day. Learn the ballads, play the whole
Yeah,
journey, and play as many different genres and styles of music as you can if you want to be a session drummer. And just get your sound right, and don't say no to anything unless you really think you're not capable. But if something's a stretch and it makes you feel nervous, then go for it.
that's great. We have a question here. What is your favorite snare? Is that possible? Do you even have a
It's
favorite snare drum?
well, it's Fran Breen Superphonic. No,
Okay, what's your favorite
um,
Gretsch snare?
I'm joking. I have a Gretsch chrome over brass, 14x5, with a fat snare underneath it, snare strand. It's a
Yeah.
great drum. It does everything. I can tune it. It works for every style of music. If I'm going to a session and I was on the train, I could just take that and it'd work. But I like to turn up with options. But it's a great drum. And the broadcaster snare is also fantastic. But it's where you hit it and how you tune it. It's very important. You can probably make most snares sound pretty good if you do those things, is my
That's good.
advice.
Wow. Do you believe in almost an hour
Has it
has
really? Well, that's good because
almost.
I'm dying for the toilet.
Ah, where can people find you on the web?
Okay, well, I'm on Twitter, which I think is Carl. It's Carl Brazil Drums. I think my Instagram is the same. Is it Carl Brazil? It's Brazil
Brazil.
Carl. Sorry.
Brazil.Carl.
And then on Facebook, it's Carl Brazil Drummer. And
Yes.
that's all I'm doing social media wise. There's not enough time in the day to check anything else.
That's enough.
But I hope this
Enough.
has been fun, and thanks for the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much to Roman Roth for connecting
Yes,
us.
big thanks.
All the best to you. If you come to Canada outside of Toronto, you played in Casino Rama with James Blunt. My father-in-law was there a few years
No
ago,
way.
and he said, "Please ask him if he remembers." No, so yes.
Do you know we've had a lot of great moments in Toronto, and we've been there a lot, and it's definitely one of our favourite places to go. So when I'm back, I'll give you a shout for sure.
Please do. Thank you, everyone, for tuning. Thank you for the questions. Everybody, please stay safe. All the best to you, Karl. You take care, my friend.
You too, mate. Speak soon. All the best. Bye, everyone. Bye.